this video, we'll be taking a look at a recent field trip to the southern coast of England, where we'll observe many different aspects of coastal engineering that has taken place. The field trip began in London, down south to the city of Brighton. As roadworks were taking place, we did a detour and began our walk in the Brighton Marina. On this field trip, we'll be exploring a few locations, starting at the Brighton Marina, followed by New Haven, Seaford, Burling Gap, Eastbourne, Pevensey Bay, and finally at Hastings. We'll now take a look at the Brighton Marina. The Brighton Marina was one of the largest marinas in Europe, with an estimated 1.5 million visitors a year. Envisioned by Henry Cohen in 1963, work began by engineering firm Taylor Woodrow in 1971 and completed in July 1978. The marina aims to provide three things. 1. A yacht harbour offering the best facilities for yachtsmen. 2. An accommodation for a residential population. And 3. Offering access to the general public and provide shopping, car parking, entertainment, and a hotel. 2 breakwaters will provide promenades where yachts and cruisers enter and leave the harbour. Public can walk through the centre of the mooring areas and over the lock gates, so they are directly involved with what's going on. Along the length, there's shops, cafes, and restaurants. The Brighton Marina was constructed from reinforced concrete, precast circular hollow caissons with cast in situ deck and superstructure. In a salt-laden atmosphere, the reactions within the concrete causes corrosion of the embedded steel reinforcement, and that maintenance works is impossible due to the tidal nature of the area. Thus, the engineering firm opted to embed sacrificial anodes inside the caissons, protecting lower permanently submerged areas with a system of impressed current to protect the higher level superstructure. With land areas below sea level at high tide, a seawall was built for protection. A lock provided access to the inner harbour. This is one of the largest non-commercial locks in Europe. We can see here of a raft waiting for the water to fill the lock to enter the maintenance site where boats get repaired. The trip then takes us through Rottingdean, where rock groins in the city centre carries on to Peacehaven, and then through New Haven, where in the early 20th century had built a large breakwater. After that, we arrive in Seaford, a coastal town in East Sussex. The town formerly had excellent beaches which were supplied by longshore drift constantly moving sand along the coast from west to east. However, ever since the breakwater at New Haven Harbour was built in early 20th century, it was regularly dredged, cutting off the supply of fresh sand to the beach. By the 1980s, the beach at Seaford had all but vanished, the shoreline becoming steep, narrow, and largely composed of small boulders. So in 1987, a massive beach renourishment operation was carried out, in which about 1 million tons of material was dredged from sandbanks out to sea and deposited on the shore. In the case of Seaford, groins were placed along the shoreline. The waves move the shingles along the east and get trapped by the groins, which then get picked up by dumper trucks that bring the shingles up the coastline again. The nature of the groin is that it does not rely on the waves as they go with the wind, but the dominant wave in this coastline comes from the west. From a high level, it is the practice of adding large quantities of sand or sediment to the beaches to combat erosion and increase beach width. Often referred to as soft armoring technique, it is sometimes reviewed as a superior alternative to hard armoring because it avoids some of the major pitfalls associated with hard structures like seawalls. Moving on to Burling Gap, which is a short walk from Eastdean, whose mountainous terrain provides a good location to rear farm animals. Coming down to the actual gap, which is in between the popular Seven Sisters Cliffs, a name which came about due to the 7 cliffs along the coastline, we can see that coastal erosion has already removed some of the rows of coastguard cottages built in 1878, but those that remain are still inhabited. The geology here is weaker, as a constant push-pull negotiation happens between the local community who want to be protected from the constant erosion and the natural environment which wants the cliff to constantly erode. Physical weathering from the waves slowly erodes the cliff, and what remains of it is the base, which can be seen at the shore. The white chalky material is where the cliff once used to be. A short bus ride from Berlin Gap takes us to Eastbourne Beach, where we can see very high groins. Greenheart timber piles are used in this occasion, a durable tropical hardwood found only in the rainforests of Guyana. Greenheart wood is used in the most extreme conditions, making it the timber of choice for both saltwater and freshwater applications. The pilings are 3 to 4 times stronger than treated pine or fir and are biologically resistant to marine borers and decay. Despite this, the piles are slowly degrading to the saltwater and was withstanding loads on both sides due to the unknown wind. Eastbourne Council has spent roughly 20 to 30 million pounds replacing the groins that are damaged. Around the corner is Pevensey Bay, which has a unique maintenance model. Its sea defense is done through a public-private partnership which saw a 25-year contract being awarded to a joint venture company made up of a few construction companies and was called the Pevensey Coastal Defences, or PCDL. We can see here that the groins are slowly falling apart, and that is because the PCDL has decided to not go with the traditional strategy of installing groins but rather importing shingles from the Isle of Wight only when required. The economics behind this is that it is highly dependent on the weather conditions, as when the weather gets bad, the more often it is required to replace the shingles, making it a loss-making situation. The last stop is at Hastings, to which we can see the beach protected by rock groins. 5,000 tons of Larvik granite rocks from Norway are imported onto the beach. The beach hosts a large community of fishermen whose boats are left on the shoreline. The field trip has concluded with us understanding the role of engineers in maintaining the coastline, which has direct impact to the local communities who live there and businesses that are based on the location by the sea. It is the responsibility of the engineer to ensure that the practice is executed through the most sustainable methods possible.